Hello students, I'm Miss Lynette Fernandez from PES's Ravi S. Naik College of Arts and Science. Today, we will be studying about the microorganisms in water. Here, we will be studying about the variability in aquatic environments and the different microorganisms present in fresh waters and marine waters and the factors affecting the microbial growth in stored waters. Today's module recognizes the variability in the aquatic environments. It explains the microbial biodiversity in aquatic environments and it cites the factors affecting microbial flora. What is aquatic microbiology? It is the study of microorganisms and their activities in freshwater, estuarine waters, and marine waters. These microorganisms present in these water bodies may be indigenous or they may be transient. If they're transient, they might be reaching there from the air column or from the runoff from the soil surface or from industrial or domestic wastes. Various habitats can be recognized within the aquatic environment, such as the freshwater habitats, the marine water habitats, estuarine habitats, flowing waters, steady waters. So, because of all these variabilities, different types of microorganisms will be found in each of these habitats. So, microbial biodiversity is very high in aquatic environments. Certain species of microbes are indigenous to a specific habitat. Each habitat is characterized by one or more of microbial communities. Water cycle. Earth's moisture is in continuous circulation. From the air or from the atmosphere, it reaches the Earth's surface in the form of rain, snow, sleet, and from here, the water gets into the groundwater and then some of it even flows to the oceans and then ultimately this water is evaporated back again. And thus, in the water cycle, if you observe, we find water in the atmosphere, on the surface and the groundwater. So microorganisms of various kinds are present in these different stages of this cyclic process. Natural waters are of three types: atmospheric waters, surface waters, and groundwaters. In the case of the atmospheric waters, this is the moisture which is present in the clouds and it is precipitated as snow, sleet, hail, and rain and brought to the surface of the earth, during which time the microflora which is present in the atmosphere is also washed down to the earth's surface. Next is the surface waters. Surface waters are made up of lakes, streams, rivers, oceans, estuaries. They contain indigenous microflora and the transient microorganisms. In the case of the groundwaters are subterranean waters. Very few microorganisms are present here because as the water percolates down, most of the water gets filtered due to the various layers of soil and sand through which it has to pass. Surface waters are of three types: marine waters, estuarine waters, and fresh waters. All of these three show different types of conditions and different factors determine the microbial growth in each of these. Therefore, large microbial biodiversity is observed here. In the case of the fresh waters, these are stagnant waters in ponds, lakes, river waters, streams, etc. So some of this water is stored water. It is stored in large reservoirs or it might just be kept stagnant in ponds, lakes. Then aquatic microorganisms generally experience highly fluctuating and highly varying environmental conditions. The conditions which affect the aquatic microorganisms are temperature. Temperature can be 0 degrees C in the aquatic conditions as in the case of Arctic regions, or it might be about 30 degrees C in the case of the equatorial regions. Hydrostatic pressure is also varying. It might be 1 atmosphere at the surface and it might be 1000 atmospheres at the greater depths of the ocean. Light, light penetration is only up to a certain level of the oceanic waters or the waters in the lakes. Salinity, salinity is almost zero in the fresh waters and it is quite high in the case of the marine waters. Then turbidity, pH, inorganic and organic constituents are some of the factors which affect the aquatic microorganisms and will decide what type of microorganisms will be present in the aquatic conditions and the number also. Microorganisms in water, they are both saprophytes as well as pathogenic microorganisms are present. So also the photosynthetic groups. So groups of algae, bacteria, fungi, nematodes and protozoans are present here. Several animal viruses are transmitted through water. Large number of fungi are present in various waters, including the potable water. Groups of bacteria that are usually found in these waters are fluorescent group of bacteria, chromogenic rods, coliform bacteria, proteus group, non-gas forming, non-chromogenic and non-spore forming rods, spore formers of genus Bacillus, pigmented and non-pigmented cocci, microorganisms of the fresh waters. When we are talking about the fresh waters, we are speaking about the streams, rivers, uh, lakes, ponds. These waters might be polluted waters, they might be eutrophic waters or they might be oligotrophic waters. In the case of eutrophic waters, these are the ones which are very rich in organic matter. They are rich. And so the microorganisms present over here will be in large numbers. And in the case of oligotrophic, they are nutrient poor waters. So the number of microorganisms also will be lesser. In the case of the polluted waters, a large number of Enterobacteriaceae members are usually found. These are usually the present in the fecal matter of men and animals. Besides that, the saprophytes are also present and they are usually derived from the soil. The river bottoms, in the case of the rivers, will show anaerobic species, Clostridium species, Desulfovibrio species. Now, in the case of the rivers, the type of microflora which is present is usually dependent upon the type of agricultural practices or industrial practices which are going on near these rivers. In the case of lakes, there are different zones which are present, the limnatic zone or the littoral zone. In the case of the limnatic zone and the littoral zone, these are zones which get sunlight. So therefore, these will have microorganisms which are photosynthesizers mostly. Then we have the benthic region. In the benthic zone, there are mostly the saprophytes present. In the case of the littoral benthic zone, the microorganisms that are present may be photosynthesizers as well as the saprophytes. And the type of organisms that are present are usually derived from the soil. Microorganisms of the fresh waters are Anabina, Microcystis, Nostoc, Oscillatoria, Odigonium, Spirulina, diatoms, protozoans, Vibrio, Micrococcus, yeasts, molds, etc. Besides the ones which were already discussed. Stored waters. What are stored waters? These are the waters which are held in ponds, lakes, or artificial reservoirs for a very long time. There are several factors which affect the microbial flora here. The microbes which are present in these waters, they usually settle towards the bottom of these lakes or artificial reservoirs along with the suspended particles. The light, they are exposed to sunlight, continuous sunlight. So, some of the microorganisms are not able to withstand this. The radiations are too much for them, so they die. The temperatures, some microorganisms are able to grow in higher temperatures. Some microorganisms cannot withstand higher temperatures. Food supply. Food supply plays a very important role in the number of microorganisms that might be present there. Like for example, if there is a lot of organic matter, lots of microorganisms will be present. In the case of the algae, if algae are present, microorganisms are also usually associated with this algae because they get food supply as well as they can adhere or form colonies on these algal forms. Then there are other organisms present here such as the protozoans. In the presence of high oxygen levels, the protozoans engulf these bacteria and they kill the bacteria, and the number of the bacteria will come down. And as the number of the bacteria comes down, the number of the protozoans on which depend on these microbial in bacterial forms will also start coming down. Microorganisms of the marine environment. Marine environment is vast, and the entire vast marine environment has various factors which determine the type of microorganisms present and the number of microorganisms present there. There are the planktons, which are divided into two types, phytoplanktons and zooplanktons. Phytoplanktons are present in the surface waters. Diatoms, dinoflagellates, blue-green algae, chlamydomonads, chrysomonads. These are some of the phytoplanktons. Bacteria belonging to genera Pseudomonas, Vibrio, Flavobacterium. These are also present along with the algal phytoplanktons. Zooplanktons. Zooplanktons here are the protozoans and the minute animals. Then there are the benthic organisms, microorganisms, most of which are anaerobic bacteria, protozoans, and archaeons. These predominate the benthic areas of the aquatic marine environment. Other microbes which are present here are yeasts, molds, photosynthetic purple sulfur bacteria, luminous bacteria, transient bacteria. Bacteria are also sensitive to pressures, hydrostatic pressures in the marine environment. Therefore, barotolerant bacterial forms are present between 0 to 400 atmospheric pressure. Moderate barophils are present at 400 atmospheric pressure, but they can still grow at 1 atmospheric pressure. Then there are the extreme barophils. These are capable of tolerating very high pressures, and so they are found at greater depths of the ocean floors. Role and importance of the aquatic microorganisms. These microorganisms occupy a key role in the food chain of the aquatic environment. They are the primary producers. They produce food for the next level in the food chain. Besides this, there are the consumers, which are also microorganisms such as the protozoa. Then, they are also very important saprophytes of the aquatic ecosystem. Major biochemical activities of the bacterial flora is dissimilation and mineralization of organic matter. Biogeochemical cycling of nitrogen, carbon, sulfur, and phosphorus also needs the role of aquatic microorganisms. With this, we cover up the different types of microorganisms which are present in water. Here we have studied about aquatic environment, which has various types of habitats and which decides the variations in the microbial biodiversity in aquatic environments and the various factors that can affect microbial growth in the aquatic environments. These are the references. Thank you.